Hello, Photo Op listeners. This is the Photo Op podcast where we talk about all things photo and video. I'm Ben Lucas.
And I'm Stuart Marlantis.
This is Photo Op.
Thanks for joining us.
So this season, we are trying to start every episode with a listener question. So what question do we have today, Stuart?
Yes, I have a question from Paul. When can you tell that entry-level equipment is holding you back and not your entry-level status as a photographer?
Ooh, I love good questions. Thank you, Paul. Thanks for listening.
Someone has gear acquisition syndrome.
Yeah. Look up gear acquisition syndrome.
Relatable.
Is gonna be your first one, which I'm pretty sure we've done an episode on that. We will link it below. What do you think, Stuart?
Oh boy, like it would have to. I feel like especially entry level gear now is so good.
It's true. It's true.
It would have to be something pretty dramatic. It would have to be literally something that you couldn't do without that equipment. And I don't mean something that's necessarily easier to do. I mean, like, can't do. Like, the probe lens that we've mentioned 10 million times on this show is a great example of you literally can't get those shots with any other lens.
Literally impossible.
So if you want to do those shots, you have to get that, is my perspective.
Absolutely. So I'm going to talk about my own experience, kind of why I bought my pro level body from my Canon Rebel. Mm-hmm. So I started shooting weddings, and when I was shooting weddings, my Canon Rebel, it really topped out at 800 ISO. Mm-hmm. It legit topped out at 1600 ISO, but I felt 1600 was nigh unusable. So I did 18 with a little bit of software and I was still underexposing by 3 stops and trying to bump it a little. And it was just a noisy, grainy mess. And and my shots still weren't as sharp as I wanted them to be because I was dragging the shutter just a little too much. And for me, that was the moment I knew this is not working.
Yeah.
So I feel
that's a real thing. I mean, low light performance has dramatically improved, and now I feel like it's leveled out a little bit. But
if you buy an entry level camera that can still go up to 25,000 ISO, and you're like, I don't know, that new Sony's looking good. You don't really need that, though.
Yeah, you don't. Unless you are. I guess if you're shooting photos in clubs or something all the time, which
use a flash.
Yeah.
If you're shooting in a club, you're dragging the shutter and using a flash. No even.
Flash clubs. There's a fancy art on the wall.
No flash clubs.
Yeah.
That's the opposite of any club I want to go. No, I'm kidding. So
technical limitations. I feel like is if you go down the road of more ethereal reasons, you start to talk yourself into it, and I feel like you need to stick to the technical. Can you literally accomplish this or not?
Let's actually roll this back to a question that we get a lot in vague terms. What camera should I buy? And I always reply to that with, I don't know your life. Do you need a pickup truck or a smart car? Mm-hmm. Are you hauling lumber, or do you want to easily park downtown? So until you can answer that question for yourself, it is your personal limitation. Mm-hmm. It is not your gear.
Yeah.
When you can look at your gear and say, oh, I can't do this because I shoot real estate and my lenses literally cannot get wide enough without a full frame.
Yeah.
Of until you can say, I'm trying to shoot macro and my 100 mils just not cutting it, I need a probe lens. Until you can say, I shoot sports and the 3 frames per second on my Canon Rebel is not cutting it. Yeah, my first camera, 3 frames per second. You heard me. So I think when you can get into the nitty gritty of this is the technical limitation that needs to be overcome, what piece of gear allows me to do that? You've just answered your own question. I think until you reach that point, it's definitely you as a beginner and not your gear holding you back.
Yep. Agreed.
Excellent.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you so much for the question. All right. So what are we talking about?
Paul, if you want a new lens, go and rent it first.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to suggest that right at the end. Just go rent it before you buy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Then you'll know.
There's definitely been a couple of lenses that I'm like, oh, yes, I need this. And I did not get my money's worth. That is not. I bought a 35 mil. I've used it like twice.
Yep.
It's not my jam. Some people love it, and I'm like, you know what? I should treat myself. Nope.
So there you go.
It's still COVID though.
Pro tip:
there's
rent
still time.
and be sure you want to invest that money. Be sure you are going to use that lens.
Absolutely. All right. So thank you again for the question. So Stuart, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about portfolios again.
Again.
Yeah, we've talked about them.
Haven't
a
we
number of
already?
times.
Didn't we literally start this podcast with how to make a portfolio?
Yeah, but we've generally talked about the building of a portfolio. Like here's how you make a website and that sort of stuff. We haven't
true.
talked too much about selection beyond just
And the actual content.
Yeah, we've said I think pretty much use your best stuff, but we haven't really gotten into any detail with that.
Excellent. So today's episode is going to be questions that you should ask yourself about your images. I'm going to clean up this title before I post it, but it's questions that you should ask about your images before you say, yes, that is good enough to put in the portfolio. So obviously there are just some photos that you feel like this is my best work. This is amazing. Mm-hmm. And you're going to get, let's say, 3 or 4 of those. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to look at yourself and go, well, this portfolio is supposed to be 20 to 24 images. What about the rest? I've got another 80 images that I like. I can't possibly fit them all in. So this episode is going to be things that you should ask yourself to kind of narrow down that best of the best to the actual best of the best, because they're not as good as you think they are.
Yeah, that's the harsh burst. That's the harsh truth is, well, I don't know. I guess it depends on what kind of person you are. Like everything I shoot, I'm immediately like, this is garbage. I would never show this to anybody. So maybe you're that kind of person, in which case you need to convince yourself what is good.
I think more of what I meant by that is you have the memory of creating the thing. I went to Iceland. I hired a model. I got this designer dress. We did this incredible thing, and it was so incredibly difficult, and it was raining, and just like you have this sensory thing and this attachment to your images because you made them, and anyone seeing that is not going to care at all. Yeah,
there's no context in a portfolio, or generally at least minimal context at best. So you have all that context. You've got all of that sensory memory. You know what went into that, and unfortunately nobody else does, and they're not going to sit around for you to explain it to them. So
I think this is going to be more about how do you ask questions that kind of allow you to kill your darlings and actually pick your best work.
Pick your favorite child.
So I'm going to start off of, do I want to get hired to do more of this? It's a very easy question. For example, I shot a 1-year-old's birthday party, and they did a cake smash, and it was very cute and adorable. And, I think I posted it to my social media just to, can I roll back and say there's a huge difference between social media and your portfolio? Just because you share that you are working, that you did do a thing, does not mean it has to be in your portfolio. You can take the money, you can say thank you for your time and your money, and then you can not show it in your portfolio. That is okay. You heard it here. You have permission. That is okay.
I mean, if you showed everything that you shot like in your portfolio, your portfolio would never, it would be ever changing. It would be a nightmare to update all the time.
So I shot this 1-year-old cake smash birthday party, and you want to know why that's not on my portfolio? Because the first thing I think to myself is, what if someone saw this photo and then from here on out, that is the only thing that I ever got hired to do? Would I be happy doing that? No. I don't know if you know a 1-year-old. They don't do a whole lot.
Yeah, I can't imagine that would be totally fun. I mean, it's fun for the 1-year-old, I'm sure.
There are photographers who would say yes. I would love that. That would sound like a dream job, just chasing around these cute little kids and taking photos of them. I'm not one of those people. So when I say you're allowed to shoot it and not show it, the other thing too is like I get hired to shoot corporate events, and I recently had a Facebook memory of one from when I was back in college, and I was shooting a fundraiser at the UW, and these two people who were just standing there looking awkward drinking, they saw the camera pointed at them, and they both turned and scowled and looked at me, and I got one shot of both of them looking down the barrel, just which is hilarious to me. Client probably didn't want that photo, but like, would that be a thing that I would like to do forever? Corporate events pay well. I do a good job. I'm respectful of all the event organizers, and I'm so thankful when they want to hire me again next year or for their next event. But is that the only thing I want to do? No, absolutely not.
I want to exclusively shoot people scowling at me.
That is literally my least favorite genre of photography that I take on. I mean, now people are going to listen to this episode and be like, oh, I'm not going to hire that guy to do that. But like, I still do a good job. I'm still a good sport when I'm there, but I don't go home and go, I just had the best day. I'm like, I'm tired. Glad I'm done with that. So, there's something to be said for, do I want to shoot more of this? Just plain and simple.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I would say next one is, could anybody else shoot this? Or maybe, like, how common is this? Is this something that you see all over the place that many, many people can shoot?
Give me an example.
Oh, I don't know. One of the things that I see even to this day, it seems like a meme, but it's still happening, is the classic wheat field or grass photo where it's a woman in a long dress and she has her hands out and she's touching the grass as she walks along. It always is kind of soft, warmer light. It's like the same exact style every single time. And if you have that in your portfolio, I assume you shoot the most common images ever made by mankind.
I have a good idea. Correct me if this is wrong. I believe the channel is called Insta Repeat.
Oh, yeah, I've seen this. Yes.
Go on Instagram, look up Insta Repeat. I think that's what it's called. And if your image that you're considering is on their channel, don't do it.
Another one you see is like people in like a red jacket standing in front or sometimes sitting in front
really small in front of a huge landscape. Really small in front of Milky
a huge
Way.
landscape. Yeah. That is another extremely common one. And I feel like if everybody else is doing this, why should I hire you to do it? Like, that's my perspective.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, it's okay. Like you need to learn if you're trying to emulate somebody that you really admire and you're trying to learn techniques, like totally cool. Shoot stuff that other people have shot, work on trying different styles. That's how you learn. And that's great. I've shot many things that are, the vast majority of the stuff I've shot, I would say is unoriginal. Like that's fine. But for a portfolio, you got to sell them on why you are unique and different, and you got to have.
Let's apply this for a second to product photography. What if you are a photographer that shoots products and a bulk of your portfolio is on white e-commerce?
That's tough.
Okay.
I mean, it needs to be technically high quality.
Yes.
In that case.
So here are my two things for that. Either your stuff needs to be adequate and your on white needs to be priced really cheap, or you need to make that shiny object look so amazing. You need to make that food look mouth-watering. Yep. You need to make that thing 110%. Scott Kelby has said a thing once about flowers. He said, if you have a picture of a flower in your portfolio, it better be the best photo of a flower that I have ever seen.
Flowers
it better be an award-winning Pulitzer, like National Geographic level, oh my God, photo of a flower. Otherwise, don't do it.
Yep. It's like sunsets too.
Yeah. Unless you are a dedicated landscape photographer. I feel like there are some of those kind of banal subjects that it better be the absolute best.
Yep.
Otherwise, just don't show it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you see it out there too much, probably don't include it in your portfolio.
Probably not. Okay, let's see. What are some other tips that we have? Does it elicit any sort of emotion?
Other than scorn if you've shot the woman in the wheat field.
Scoring from us mainly. No,
that elicited emotion. Congratulations.
So I mean, if you think about this from wedding photography, there's the moment where the bride might be, wiping away a tear and hugging grandma, and your composition might not be the best. Your lighting might not be the best. It was candid. There are gonna be things about that you're like, oh, I wish that, I wish this, of technically her nose is in focus, her eyes are out of focus. There are gonna be these other things, but does it make the viewer feel something? Because if you can convey that emotion through the photo, I feel like that is more powerful than any of the technical limitations you might run into. So I feel like if you're looking at two different photos, if there's one that's like, oh my God, I feel something, that is different.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Emotion, I mean, in the creative, image field, emotion is what it's all about. Like, you can have the most technically perfect thing ever, and it could be so boring to look at and so uninteresting. So yeah, it's one of those things where I wish you could articulate like how to shoot emotion better. I feel like
It's true.
It seems like it's so ephemeral, and you just kind of chase it and you get lucky occasionally and you get it. But yeah, if you got something that has powerful emotions, that, like, you're winning right there. Like, you can lean on that so hard.
I've got another quick, easy one. When you are putting things together, if it's not you should start your portfolio with your strongest image. You should end your portfolio with maybe your second or third strongest image. The stuff in the middle is going to be not as good, right? Yeah. But if there's something that you kind of look at and you're like, yeah, this is pretty good, I need more photos, but like, this will be page 2, don't show it.
Yep.
Your portfolio, generally speaking, should almost never have a page 2. The very rare.
Does anybody go to the page 2 of Google search results?
No. I will go to page 19 to find a forum to find the one thing that I need, but I will not go to page 2 of Google.
And you know what the message will be? It'll be somebody saying, "Oh, I figured it out. Thanks." But what did you tell us how you figured it out.
No, people do not go to page 2. It does not happen. No. So yeah, if there's something that you're even on the fence about, there better be a really compelling reason. Otherwise, it's probably just not your best work. So I feel like portfolios should roughly be, let's say 20, 24, maybe 30 images max. That's it. People don't have the attention span or desire to look at more than that. I feel like you can get across what you need to show. That being said, when it comes to very specific things like weddings, a wedding album has anywhere between 80 to 100 images. Well, if someone wants to see what does a finished album look like, I'm going to show them the 80 to 100 images from a previous wedding.
For sure.
When I'm showing my wedding portfolio is not one gallery. It's like 4 or 5 galleries. There's one for the engagements. There's one for the elopements, kind of the smaller, low budget. We just went and did a cool thing weddings. And then there are kind of different galleries for some of the different parts of the day and things I do. If I put those all into one gallery, it would be a few hundred photos, and no one's going to look at that. Sure. So there are kind of times where you can kind of dissect, but any individual niche down topic should really not have more than 20, 30 photos.
And speaking of those 20 and 30 photos, what do you do as far as placement? They all have to be next to each other. Like, you should consider when you're putting your portfolio together, what does this image look like?
Flow.
Yeah, the flow. And what does this image look like in comparison to the images around it? What is it next to? Like, does it tell part of the story you're trying to tell? Does it clash, or does it fit well with those images?
This is a really good point. When you're putting your images together, if it is a portfolio and it is not all of a single model or all of a single thing. It's a lot harder to like tell a narrative story because these are, all different things. But I feel like there should be some kind of flow to the story, and it's a little bit harder to articulate. But there are things where I like the movement of this one, just visual composition moves into the movement of the second one. There are some images that when you put them next to each other, they just look and pair really well. There's some images you put them next to each other and you go, oh shoot, those are the same photo. If either they shouldn't both be in there or they should be staggered apart. This is actually an issue that I had with my pinup calendar of just like when I was trying to figure out what model goes with what month. I had a few months that were flex depending on kind of where I thought they should go. And I'm like, oh, those two are doing the exact same pose. I can't put them next to each other. They're sitting there holding the thing and smiling. I'm like, oh, they can't. No, okay. So think about that. Like, are these too similar? If they're too similar, either cut one out or make sure they're not next to each other.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have any other tips for kind of how people should pick images or put together a portfolio?
I think that covers it pretty well. I mean, it needs to speak to you. Like it needs to reflect you, of course. Like all of your work should reflect you, and they're hiring you to do your thing, to produce from your perspective. And so they're not going to probably hire you to do those exact same images, but they're looking at this as this is what you're capable of. So you need to tell the story of yourself as well. I feel like, if you've got a portfolio that has a lot of disparate stuff in it, it's hard to tell a narrative, but it should tell your story to some degree, at least your capabilities.
I just looking at my notes here, I think I have two more kind of helpful tidbits I can tack on. Thing number one is, does this have visual impact? Is this a showstopper? Another way to say that is, if someone were scrolling, what would make them stop and look at it versus keep scrolling? Like the photo on the wall behind you, I feel like is a visual showstopper. That's the reason why I printed it 8 feet by 5 feet large. But honestly, on a computer, that one doesn't read the same. In person, it's incredible, which is why I printed it in person. But on the computer, we are so small in this massive landscape, you don't even know it's a portrait.
Even at this size, it's like
6 inches.
Maybe. Yeah, I was going to say.
So one thing is, in the format you're going to show it. Are you showing this portfolio in print? Are you showing this portfolio on your website? Are you showing this portfolio as a thumbnail in a tiny gallery? Does it have kind of a visual impact and a reason to make people want to click it or stay on it or look at it rather than flip or scroll past it?
Yeah, for sure.
And I think the last little tip would be, when you are kind of going through there, like we kind of said earlier, there are going to be some photos that you're like, I love this photo. I love the technical expertise. I came up with this thing and, I like it. But the question you should ask yourself is, who is going to buy this? Who else likes this? I see this a lot in the TFP groups that I'm a part of. People make some cool stuff, but I don't understand it. And I don't know what art director would ever buy it.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, you are trying to sell a service here, and you can love some photo as much as you want, but if nobody else is going to love it, then what's the point?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I will say
that might be a good one to put on your wall.
I will say that I'm not going to be down on anyone's art, because art is subjective and there's probably a buyer for every artist. But I will say, if you don't know who the buyer is, if you do not have that defined or found, then it probably shouldn't be in your portfolio.
Yeah, you can be your own buyer for that one.
Yeah. I like there are some jobs that I've done where I go, this could be a commercial, even though I was shooting like families or something. And so there are a few of those photos that I put in my commercial gallery because it feels that way. I scandalous, I know.
How could you?
I know. But there are also some of those photos where it's like, okay, let's just get together with a model and do something creative, and we do some cool, wacky stuff. And I'm like, who would buy this? Of just like, it's not quite fashion. This is not really a thing I'd want to do for a boudoir client. This is not really a good advertisement for those jeans. Of like, is this a perfume ad? I don't like. It might be. A
You
cool
know what
image.
that is? I know the buyer for that. Social media content.
Social
make a
media.
YouTube video out of it. Make some
There you go.
Facebook posts, Instagram.
But it doesn't mean it has to make your portfolio.
Well, yeah. But there's your buyer.
There's your buyer. So yeah, I think those are some things that you guys can ask yourselves when you're trying to kind of cull down those images and figure it out.
Good luck. It's a tricky business.
It is a tricky business, and it's actually one that I'm working on right now. Wedding shows are coming up, and I'm revamping that as we speak. So it's timely.
man.
It is timely.
Exciting.
All right, so next week we are going to be talking about kind of our favorite things and your essential must-haves if you are going to set up a home studio. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. And as always, send your listener questions to hello@photo-op.show.
If you have questions or ideas for future episodes, you can email us at hello@photo-op.show.
Watch us on Ben's YouTube channel at NomCreative.
As in Om Nom Nom.
Share this with a friend, and you can listen to Photo Op anywhere podcasts are sold.
Or download it. Because it's free.